Contemporary Context Presentation Assignment, Part 1. Now, this part of the assignment was our assignment number 6, and it was leading up to a final project of mine where it was to present what we'd learnt, the learning outcomes of contemporary context, into one final assignment. Now, the process that I'm going to show you now is going to be a selection of work where mood boards were produced and ideas of refinement to finally come up with the idea of the final outcome for my final presentation. Now, as we can see in the sketchbook, I've started to collate lots of ideas, which does relate back to Obsolete Time Machine. I had to refer back to Textiles in Context and built up a portfolio of ideas that I may use in conjunction with the final presentation. Interior textiles was covered, and this process then led into the art textiles, which initially I decided to go for returning back to Obsolete Time Machine because of the colour palette and the printed outcomes. This then led on to how I was going to produce my textiles in a context, and we moved on and we developed some mood boards. During this assignment, we returned back to the trend book, which was from assignment number 1. And this was included within this part of the project just so that I'd got reference of how the initial outcomes of the trend book would have some effect on my presentation for Obsolete Time Machine. Now, I was advised during this part of the assignment that we could actually, in conjunction, produce a mini assignment, which in actual fact was very enjoyable. So what this mini assignment led to was I did a report just to get the feel of what a presentation would feel like to present to an audience. And this notebook that I produced was just collating all the images, the colours, the objects, the wording that I wanted to use for the final presentation, which yet had to be refined, but it really gave me some experience of how to start to collate information within this assignment and start to refine, because this has been an ongoing issue with a lot of my projects, that I don't let go of some of my ideas and start to channel to start to simplify for final sampling. Moving on from that, for the presentation, it was a case of producing some imagery. This still is in connection with Obsolete Time Machine, and this part of the assignment was more graphic and more technical, more Photoshop. My knowledge again of this area is very basic. So what I did was I took photographs of my samples and imagery, re-photoshopped them, and then went into photo editing. As you can see here, I took a photograph, and when the photograph arrived, I actually cut out the area where I wanted to place the sample and actually put a piece of printed textiles behind the imagery, and then went back into photo editing, where you could just play and manipulate. So the skill set there was quite simple, but I do think it did do the job. Moving on into the assignment and the projects, we then made a connection back to the original trend book, and through this process I started to collate words, colour palettes and imagery that I wanted to put together the mood and the feeling for the presentation of a mood board. And this is where we go back to producing samples and textiles and photographs to build up a portfolio. As we can see here, there is an image of my textiles in context, which was a bag. And then we can see photographs of the original theme, obsolete time machine. And then we can see a textile collage sample that makes the connection and relationship. I've kept all these samples as a form of resource, obviously, for me to, if at any one point I want to return back to the assignment at a later date. And then the refinement and the development will go back to me selecting a presentation called Construction, which was from my independent project, and this is where I will put all of my learning outcomes into practice to finalise a final presentation for assignment number 6.